Hello, I'm John Davis. I'll be hosting this video discussion to discuss Frank Lambert's article, Pedlar in Divinity, George Whitefield and the Great Awakening, 1737 to 1745, which was published in the Journal of American History 77, number 3, in 1990. Mr. Lambert spends a great deal of time going into George Whitefield's background and basically youth, in which he grew up in a mercantile system, and he became very familiar with different forms of commercialism and marketing, some of which would not be unfamiliar today. By 1737, he began to use those in planning the first of several trips that he would take to the American colonies on an evangelistic mission. In doing so, he would make a great deal of personal attachments with people such as Benjamin Franklin. He would use these attachments to prepare the way, so to say, increasing his audience and distributing his message. This allowed him to attract crowds and get his message out to people on a scale that had not been seen previous to this. It would also cause a great deal of conflict between himself and parish priests, who saw this itinerant preacher as undermining their authority. His message was too enthusiastic and would bring people's ideas that they might not agree with their local parish preacher. Amy Larzap writes in George Whitefield and the Great Awakening, Implications of the Itinerancy Debate in Colonial America, in the Rhetoric Society Quarterly in 2012, that this dispute, as I said, the parish preachers saw this as undermining their authority, causing dangerous ideas, and accused him of being overly enthusiastic and undermining their authority. They thought this was dangerous, as their political authority brought order to the local area. This was just one of the problems, however. In addition to this, Mr. Lambert delves deeply into exactly how George Whitefield went about gaining this support, and focuses more on his mercantile side than his message. Yes, he leveraged the support of other businessmen like Benjamin Franklin to get his message spread far and wide, and he would even use a great deal of advertising, some of it relatively modern in concept, to get the fact that he was going to be preaching at this location well in advance of him arriving there, and in doing so would gain these large crowds. One of his main goals and his favorite charities was one he established himself. It was a Georgia orphan house, which he would name Bethesda. And eventually his goal became to make Bethesda Orphanage self-sufficient, and he would accomplish this. He also claimed that his mission was to basically bring the gospel to the world. And in a sense, he did. He did it through this commercialism. His message was spread so far and wide. His sermons were published. And a great many people read them. And through his relationships, he was found in most of the major newspapers of the era. Now, one of the great disputes that Mr. Lambert has with George Whitefield is his attachment to his possessions. And he criticized him for being, especially towards the end of his career, overly materialistic, especially once he had gotten Bethesda Orphanage to be self-sufficient. He started to focus more on his material needs or wants, to include a great deal of a large discussion about him needing an excessively comfortable carriage and how he went about getting that. Overall, I think it was a balanced article that may have focused a little bit too much on the techniques that he employed, his commercialism, and not quite enough on what his message was. The message kind of falls to the wayside in Mr. Lambert's article. But overall, I find it was a balanced treatment. Thank you.